All right, guys, welcome back in here inside the pod with Lou here. Like we start every podcast with a Bible verse, and today's Bible verse led us to the book of 1 Corinthians 13:4. It says, "Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud." 1 Corinthians 13:4. And then Mr. Kevin here had another one, Philippians 4:13. "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." Philippians 4:13. And with that being said, I'm with.
That's Kevin Romero.
All right, bro. Well, thank you for stopping by.
No, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
No, appreciate you. I mean, like I said, I've seen the Instagram and seen that you had some people here that I'm real good friends with. Mike Daniel you had not that long ago.
Yeah, shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. He was my substitute teacher at Mendota High.
And Mike likes to say that this all dream started in his drama class.
Ah, okay.
In 2005.
Right. And then he was teaching around there with my sister, Lucero, was in school out there too at Mendota. So, and now when he was coaching in Mendota, and then he coached in Firebaugh, and now he's admin or a teacher in Madera. And of course, I've gotten to know his family, his kids, his wife, and they're all really awesome people. He's, he really, took a chance on me, had me on the team as a equipment guy for football after trying out didn't really work as well as I hoped for, but still let me be a part of the team and made me feel welcomed. And to this day, I'm always thankful for him for giving me an opportunity to stay around with the team. And that really got my interest and my love, I guess, for high school football really mostly started from him. So I gotta give credit where credit's due, and he's definitely one of the people that I give credit to.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now Mike has two stories here. Look, this podcast started because of Mike, and WSL Athletics started because of Mike, right?
Yeah, I mean, he got me going, and I started this out back in 2012. So I was a senior in high school, and back then, we had Edgar Segura, and back then there was when he was breaking records, setting records, and all that. Which, of course, I believe some of them have already been broken again. I think he still has one or two left that he still owns. And, it started out that way. It started covering Mendota. I would be calling in the stats to ABC 30 to, at the time, Tommy Tran, who was the sports director at the time. And he's now at CBS Sports. And
yeah, he is.
And I've been in contact with whoever has taken his role as sports director. So now it's Stephen Hicks. He's been there for a while. I would get in touch with David Bataller, Alec Nolan, who just left to Texas just not that long ago. So, and I'm grateful that, they put my stuff out there when they can. Like I was, when we finally met in person, we were at the Firebaugh Coalinga game, and I got the game-winning touchdown. Well, that ended up being for Coalinga. I got that and sent it to him, and the ABC 30 crew ended up using it as one of the top 3 plays of that night. And he even mentioned my name. He said, shout out to Kevin giving us this on the Everything app, on Twitter, and he got the play up there. So I was good to see that and see that he was giving me some recognition for that. And I don't really try to do it to really get recognized like that. I mean, if it happens, it happens. But when I do, it's just like, okay, they see me, they know what I'm trying to do. And again, like I said, it started fall of 2012. And then in spring, when I was involved with softball, I decided, you know what? Why not cover the rest of the other teams in our league? Give them the attention that I've given Mendota so much attention to. It wouldn't be fair if I didn't give the other schools in our league the attention that they deserve, because there's all these schools, all these teams, all these coaches, they all have stories that haven't really had a chance to be told. And I'm like, well, you know what? If no one else is going to do it, or if no one's going to dedicate the time and the effort to do it, then I'll step up and I'll do it. And that's what I've been doing for this is now 13 years.
Yeah, no, you kind of jumped in. I didn't want to interrupt you, right? So we are both from Mendota, right? And we were working so the way it worked is kind of what you're doing is kind of what, and at the same, as I'm learning and I'm getting kind of accustomed to all this, I didn't really have an idea of who did most. I know that like we have Pag Meter that does like the bigger schools out there, D1, and I'm learning about this new guy on Instagram, Central
Section Outlet.
Yeah,
Stephen Curtis.
He does a lot of stuff too. Not really out here though.
But he does give attention out here too. He gives attention to the schools out here as well. So, and he does a pretty good job of it too, considering that he's primarily in the Bakersfield area. But
that's where he's from.
Well, I don't really know exactly where he's from, but I know he's near that area to where he's accessible to go to those games in the area. He's I believe he has come to some of the games out here in the Valley, and covered those sports as well. But other than that, I know that's his thing, but he gives attention out here too. And that's good that we have more and more people giving attention to the schools out there in Fresno, Clovis area, Bakersfield area, the Central Coast area as well, now that they're a part of the section. And of course, myself giving the attention out here to the Westside. We got good sports and good athletes in the Westside, as you can tell by my jersey, which we all know who this jersey belongs to.
Who is that again?
This one, for those that don't know who this is Josh Allen's jersey. Played here at Firebaugh High School football. He also did basketball as well, I believe.
And they just had Josh Allen night, or they
renamed the football field last night. They renamed it Josh Allen Field, which, you know what, I very much believe it's well deserved.
And I'm shocked you have coverage on that you didn't go to that game.
Well, yeah, I honestly didn't find out till late notice, and by then I already had planned to be in Mendota for the Mendota Dos Palos game, since it was also homecoming night as well. And it's a competitive rivalry between those two schools also, Mendota Dos Palos. They have what it's called the cross county rivalry, since we got Mendota, Fresno County, you have Dos Palos and Merced County. And it's been a thing for a very long time, since Dos Palos has been in the league, and of course Mendota's been in the league as well. And that was where some of the attention was going, but of course some majority of it was out here in Firebaugh again. With his family was out there on the field, and of course very few people that I know, they had thought, oh, maybe he might make it out here, and I'm like, I don't think he would, because he has a Monday night game to get ready for. So imagine, even if he were to try to, he literally would have been here that night, and then would have had to leave to where their games at. He would have had to leave today, or either today or that same night. Exactly. Yeah. So if it was a bye week, maybe he probably would have been out here, possibly, but we can only imagine. But his family was out there. His family, of course, still has the farm out here, and more recently, as a lot of people have been posting, they've seen the cantaloupes with the little tags that says JA17. So it's good that the NFL is recognizing him, that he got MVP just this past season.
Yeah.
Finally, I think he should have got it a long time ago, but good things comes to those that wait, and he waited long enough.
I like how you said that, Kevin. I'm gonna have to tell you my favorite Bible verse now.
Go ahead.
Isaiah 60:22. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. So it comes back down to timing.
Yeah.
And so kind of us jumping in, like when we met at the Firebaugh Coalinga game, I've heard of you. We obviously, you're being a youngster, you're a little bit younger than me. Mm-hmm. So we didn't ever cross paths in school, right? But when I had seen you there, and I noticed that you had that pass, and us being our first year, because we've covered now 7 Westside schools, so we started off with Kerman, because we had Adrian Torres on the podcast. Shout out to Adrian Torres and Kerman.
He's top player. Good
we had Dos Palos, shout out to Coach Calvert. Then we had Tranquility, so shout out to Coach Mike. Carruthers, so shout out to Coach Ward.
Coach Ward. And also you got to give recognition as well to the longtime coach out there, Coach Tom Casanova.
Yeah.
Where that Ward worked under before Ward took over for him.
And he mentioned that a little bit. And see, people like you and Brian Welch, you guys have really good information on all these players and coaches. This is our first year, and you guys motivate me to want to learn the kids, right? Because obviously you're going to come do something, and you want to be able to come out and be like, okay, I know this kid, I know this kid, I know this kid. One thing that we've kind of not been getting pushback on it is, we tried, obviously me being a Mendota boy myself, I tried to do Mendota first, and then us being from Firebaugh, we tried to do Firebaugh, right? It hasn't aligned quite yet. Like I said, back to the timing, right? So then we just moved on. When we ended up working with, and shout out to Coach for Coalinga, Coach Watson, his first year.
Coach Watson.
He taken over. They're coming off of, I like to call it, from actually Adrian's the one that started it. He's like, they went from being the hunter to the hunted because they're coming off of Valley title wins, right?
Coming off a dominant season last year, 14-1, made their first state playoff appearance, in which it was a very close game. I wasn't able to make it out to that game, but it was a very close game, competitive game, and had Coalinga been able to win that game, they definitely could have had a shot at being a state title winner. But and I was there for their playoff run and everything. I was even invited
with Coalinga.
Yeah, I was even invited to attend the game in Shafter, which I thank them for that, and appreciated them for that. They allowed me in and stuff like that. Went with them to Shafter, got to see that game. It was a great game. They were down for a good most of it, but I think not just Coalinga, but I think small schools like Coalinga is when you're down by a certain amount, you just keep going. You keep going until you can't go no more, or until the game's over, whichever comes first.
Yeah.
And that's what Coalinga, that was like their thing towards the end of last year. They won the league title at home against Los Palos, and then the rest of the playoffs, they close game to Washington Union, and then they went up against Roosevelt, who they've been doing really well these last couple of years under their coach, Ricky McCoy. Who's a former player there, and he's a young guy too, so they've done really well. And then championship game against Shafter, which I've had the chance to be on, like you mentioned, Bag Meter. He does a Twitter space every Friday night after the games.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it.
Yeah, so he does that every Friday night after the games. If you got to follow him on Twitter, and he's got a lot of people up there on his spaces. He's had coaches on there. He's had administration out there. And one of the few times he had the coach from Shafter, Coach Cheryl Perucci, and I finally got to meet him when I was over there in Shafter. It was my first time even going to Shafter. I've heard of Shafter, but I've never been there. And I think Shafter and the area, they really take their football seriously. They take their athletics seriously over there, and the facility was a very nice facility, and everything else like that. The coverage that they get out there from like the local news affiliates out there and stuff like that was amazing. And I was just glad to be there for the experience. And that's when I also first met Steven in person. We've talked over messages and stuff, but Steven Curtis, who I was talking about, Central Sports Outlet, but that was the first time we met in person. And, even right then and there, we joined the space on Twitter out there as we were both out there on the field and such. So, I've just been, like I say, I've just been blessed with these opportunities to meet all these people.
Yeah.
And the coaches, the admins, the ADs, and all that throughout my time doing this. And, I'm going to keep doing this for as long as I'm able to do it, and keep telling the stories of these kids in the Westside that really, need to be heard. Like I said, Josh Allen, was one of them, and no one gave him any, as we all know, he didn't get a single Division I college offer. He didn't get any, really. He was sending emails out. He was sending his highlight tapes out. And, before we got on, we were watching the Alabama-Missouri game. And he sent his stuff over also to Alabama. And, he got I think the only thing he ended up getting was maybe a walk-on offer for Fresno State. But then that's when they recruited this quarterback from Texas. And I remember the response that he sent, because it was mentioned in an ESPN article. And basically what it said is, you picked someone who was shorter than me, smaller than me. You picked someone over me. That's what it looked like. That's how I think is what it sounded like. And he's like, okay, then, well, if wherever I go to school at, and if we happen to play each other, then I'll show you guys what you missed out on. And turns out when he finally ended up going to Wyoming,
He was hurt.
Exactly, of course. I mean, when he got picked up by Wyoming, and Wyoming is in the Mountain West Conference, which of course Fresno State's in that conference until next year, and they had a chance to play each other. Fresno State still won that game, but it was a very close game. But Josh Allen had a really good game against them. And even the coach at the time,
I don't think Josh Allen played.
Oh no, he did. He played in that game. I think this was before his injuries that he had in college because he had quite a few shoulder injuries. But I remember him playing in that game, and I can't remember the Fresno State coach at the time, but they asked him like what did he think of his performance, and it was this. I think it was DeRuiter at the time. It might have been him or Tedford, but they asked him what they thought of his performance, and they mentioned that we had our eyes on him on the recruitment trail, but we didn't end up going with him, and now I'm starting to think maybe we should have given him a chance, But
Yeah.
But then went to Wyoming, and then I remember watching video of the interview that he gave after like one of their last games, and he said that's when he said he was gonna declare for the draft, and then I watched the draft when the year he got drafted. I watched it, and first round I'm seeing all these other teams passing on him, and then I'm like, I didn't know where it was gonna end up, and then I see Buffalo making a trade to move into the top 10, and I'm thinking, could this finally be it? And then I hear his name and everything else, and I'm like, I was excited for him, pumped for him. I remember the very last time I ever got to see him when he was still playing in college. I told him, I will buy your jersey. I will wear your jersey just as long as it's not the Niners or the Cowboys, because I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, which most people are like, how? But I told him that. And when he got drafted to Buffalo, found his jersey.
So you had like a relationship with Josh? You actually got to talk to him? And
It's been, I haven't talked to him since he was in college, but there's been times when I've been out here in Firebaugh, and I ran into either his mom or his dad, and we would always catch up and have good conversations with them. I got along well with his family. When I first met them, his sisters, McKenna and Nikayla, and then of course his brother, who I actually played JV basketball against when he played basketball for Firebaugh, and I played for Mendota. So I got to know them pretty well, but I haven't talked to Josh since he was in college. But I've said, whoever gives this kid a chance, and I was talking about this when he was still in high school, and then when he was a JUCO at Reedley College. If someone gives this kid a chance, he'll make it worth your while. And he's done that for Reedley, he's done that for Wyoming, and now he's been doing it the last couple of years for Buffalo, battling it out with Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and just make
Joe Burrow.
Exactly. All those guys in the AFC East, Tua, and I don't know if they played the Jets yet, but he's going to go up against Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers with the Steelers now.
Right. Of course.
And we got Justin Fields with the Jets.
Justin Fields with the Jets. So I don't think he's gone up against Fields yet. I don't think they've gone up against the Bears yet when Fields was in Chicago. But just to think about all the places he's been in, all the quarterbacks he's gone up against.
You're right. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, at the end of the day, Hall of Famer, right?
Exactly.
Tom Brady,
Hall of Famer.
considered the GOAT, right?
Exactly.
And it's kind of cool to be able to see. Then obviously he just recently, congratulations to him, he just got married, right? His wife is an actress,
Haley Steinfeld,
very famous and been in a lot of great movies, right?
Yes. And,
I mean,
like, when is he gonna bring her around here? I'm like, who knows if he's gonna ever bring her around here to Firebaugh? But
yeah, I mean, pretty sure that he brings them to the parents' ranch.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna be out in the public like that.
No. Well, I mean, he maybe because he's still, as we've gotten to see him, he hasn't let the attention that he's gotten and all the accolades and everything, he hasn't let that get to his head. He remembers where he's from. He's still a humble guy. He still finds ways to contribute to his community. I remember a few years back, he made a donation to the football program, and they got new gear and stuff like that. And so,
he has a good heart, man.
He does.
The guy has.
I feel like when he comes to Firebaugh, he'll come out with people that have known him since he was a kid, known his family since he was a kid, and Firebaugh out here, everyone out here that are fans of either the Bills or him himself, are proud of what he's been able to do. Obviously, I am because I got the jersey. So
yeah. No, so okay. Well, obviously great to talk about a local community kid. I think when we're talking about Westside sports and the Westside League that you do, and us kind of doing Westside schools, I try to tell the kids when I'm out there talking to them that you never know who's the next Josh Allen. You never know who's going to be the next Edgar Segura or
Or the next Danny Trejo.
I was just about to say, you just caught me at the next Danny Trejo. You know, I mean, these kids are small town kids, and a lot of these kids work hard. You know, kind of getting to. I'm gonna give a little bit of flowers to Coalinga real fast. We're talking about JD. You know,
JD Reed. Yep.
The kid. I think people don't understand is that when the quarterback threw the ball against the Firebaugh, right, and the opener, is JD made a play, and if he wouldn't have tapped that ball to his receiver, the game would have been over.
Yeah,
you know,
it would have been.
And I mean, he had to get up there, and when he pushed the ball out, dude, he fell and he was hurt. I don't know,
he got a little bit banged up.
He was down for a little while.
He was a little slow to get up,
and that it happened to just be perfectly that.
Eric Hernandez, he's
Eric Hernandez, Eric Hernandez. So I mean, in Firebaugh, they played their hearts out. You know, it was 14-9. It was a battle. I mean, me and Brian, and this is where I tell you, when you and him talk, you guys make me want to know who the kids are, know the schemes, and I feel like this is our first year doing it. As I kind of get into stuff, I like to get involved and pushed, and I'll get to know. Hopefully, we get to cover it as long as you have, right?
Yeah, I mean, but give props to Firebaugh, to their coaching staff. Coach Saldana, he's been there a few years now. Didn't have the best start to his head coaching tenure. You know, Firebaugh has had some tough, I guess you could say, rebuilding years after, you know, but they seem to have been slowly working their way up, and this year they're really working their way up as they are competing with Coalinga, competing with Dos Palos, competing with Mendota for the league title, and a competitive record as it is as well with them. You know, they're also, I believe they're now 4-3.
Yeah.
You know, so they're up there. They're tied with Mendota right now. Both have a loss in league, both have a win in league. And, you know, whoever, because right now it's top three. Right now, Coalinga has first just because they have one more win on their record than Dos Palos. So
I know Coach Watson texted us and said that the last game of the season is supposed to be on Halloween.
It is,
and that game already got moved to Thursday though.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, so
I don't know. 30th.
It's gonna be on the 30th. It's gonna be in Dos Palos, and it could potentially be for the league championship. I think that coming in, Firebaugh could be. I think at the end of when I was reading an article, I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it was Pag Meter or somebody said that Firebaugh was a sleeper. I believe that if Firebaugh can bring their A game and potentially upset the Broncos, right? Then going into that game on the 30th, it could be for not only the league championship, but teams can get in. You know, if Firebaugh can upset Dos Palos this year, and then Mendota continues to play hard, we can see the last game of the season, Mendota versus Dos Palos. Who can get in the playoffs?
Well, they're at the moment right now, both pretty much all those four teams, Coalinga, Dos Palos, Mendota, Firebaugh, they are more than likely settled in the playoffs. But what these next few weeks will determine really is where they're going to shift up or down in terms of their division, or if they're going to stay in the same division. Okay, what seeding will they probably be lining up with? Because as we know, Coalinga and Dos Palos, they're both in Division 4.
I don't know that, so that's something you got to help me out here.
Oh, well, okay then. Well, Coalinga, Dos Palos, they're Division 4.
I heard that is Mendota D6.
Mendota, they are. So how they have it set up, but of course it's not without their problems. Well, I shouldn't say problems, without the hiccups. With how the central section works, is back then it used to be if you do really well, if say you go undefeated. A perfect example: a couple years ago, Dos Palos went undefeated, 10-0, dominant season, league champions. This was really before they had base divisions, but they were settled in Division 5, and because of the great season they had, CIF was like, "Oh, they're that good. Let's put them in a higher division for playoffs." So you're thinking, "Oh, they only went up just one." No, they got jumped from Division 5 to Division 3. And they got the bottom half of the bracket. They traveled. They were the 14th seed. They had to travel to Kingsburg, who was the 3 seed. Traveled over there to Kingsburg, and Kingsburg gave them a good beating. I think I remember the score being 64-13.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And similar schools also that did pretty well, that got that big jump. Similar schools went through that same thing. So finally they're like, the central section was like, okay, we need to fix this. We need to make it at least to where it's competitive. So they decided to do was, okay, and what the system is set for right now is they decided that, okay, you have a base division and your only options are you're either going to be moved up just one or you're going to move down one. So, for example, last year Mendota was based in 5. So they were either going to be stay in 5 or move up to 4 or go down to 6. So that's how it works. But right now, they do it off of every 3 years, they adjust the base divisions. And they take the data that they have for 3 years and then they use all that information to be like, okay, this school belongs in this division, this school belongs in this division. But I think now they switched it to now every 2 years again. Because they used to be doing it every 2 years, then they went to 3 years, and now I believe they're going back to the 2-year model. So this is the first year that these schools are going to be in this division that they're in. So again, Coalinga Dos Palos is in 4, Mendota and Firebaugh are based in 6, as well as with Avalon and Tranquility, they're also based in 6. So for those schools, Mendota, Firebaugh, they can only move up to Division 5. Dos Palos, Coalinga, they're either going to be up in 3 or down to 5. It just depends on how their season goes. And, these next couple of games, like next week, you have Coalinga Mendota. That's going to be a competitive game. And believe it or not, Dos Palos is going to probably keep an eye on that game because, like you said, a league championship could come down to Coalinga Dos Palos, which is honestly that last 2 years is how it's gone down. Coalinga Dos Palos last year in Coalinga won. The year before that, Dos Palos beat Coalinga in Dos Palos. So this game being in Dos Palos this year, I'm sure from here on out, Dos Palos is going to keep an eye on Coalinga. Coalinga is going to keep an eye on Dos Palos. But then now Coalinga is also going to keep an eye on Mendota. And then, of course, Firebaugh is going to keep an eye on everyone else since they haven't played them yet. Firebaugh already played Coalinga, lost to them. But they still have to play Mendota. They still have to play Dos Palos. So there's a whole lot of madness that can go on within the next couple of weeks until we get to the last 2 weeks of the season. So the weekend of the 25th and, of course, Halloween weekend, we could be figuring out by then, okay, who's going to be playing for the league title? Is it going to be on the weekend of the 25th or is it going to be the last weekend of the season?
Yeah, that's exciting.
It is. That's the beauty of high school football, whether it's a small league like ours or you have the track, you have CMAC, you have NYL, which is North Yosemite League, you have South Sequoia League. All these leagues are going to have their own kind of storylines and following like who's going to play for league championships and who's going to be playing in like Division 1, which of course is now broken down to Division 1 single A and Division 1 double A. And it's madness, man. We're in the middle of high school season. You got college football going on as well. Fresno State played a rare Friday night game last night, and they got an unfortunate beating from Colorado State. But that's why they have 2 weeks to get ready for the next game, which is against San Diego State on the 25th. So they'll have time to get ready and stuff like that. But they're looking, other than that game against Colorado State, they've looked really well this year. It's only their second loss because they lost to Colorado State and then lost to Kansas on opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So
they had a 5-game win streak, and then they were favored.
They were favored against Colorado State,
5.5 points, and then they ended up getting blown out, like you said.
Yeah,
49-21.
Mm-hmm. And now there's midway through the season, there's already calls that maybe. EJ Warner, who's the current quarterback right now for Fresno State, son of Hall of Famer Kurt Warner.
Mm-hmm. We actually reached out to EJ on Instagram, so somehow, some way he sees this. We wanted to. My thing is like this. Like I said, when this podcast was started and was being created and made, I had no idea that I was going to be doing high school sports. I initially, coming from law enforcement, I was going to try to do like more of a law enforcement podcast. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up getting into the fight game. I ended up doing a big dog bare knuckle. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we did 559 fights. Right. Then we got into boxing. Right. And then from there, one of our team members was like, bro, you got to do high school football. And then I was like, okay. Started reaching out to some people. Like I said, we want to thank once again Adrian Torres for coming on. But before that, and I wanted to mention, because we're talking about Josh a little bit. Because with this podcast, we just jumped in it. We didn't really get to introduce you. They don't really know. Well, people that see it, they know who you are. So it's going to be a little bit backwards here because at the same time, I saw you getting passionate, talking about, what you do, and we jumped in it.
Right.
But, real fast, I'm going to backtrack, and then we'll kind of reintroduce you real fast, and then we'll kind of jump in it, okay?
Sounds good.
But talking about Josh real fast.
Right.
So we had Tom Herman on the podcast, right? So Tom Herman, national champion at Ohio State, right? That was actually when Josh's parents still had the restaurant here.
Yep.
And Tom talked about, them giving him his tapes and recruiting him. Tom mentioned on the podcast about how he was one of the very many coaches that passed him up. He talked about at the time he had just got the Texas job. He went from Ohio State to Houston, then from Houston to Texas.
Yep.
He was talking about that he went. As a matter of fact, he recruited Joey Burrow. So that's when I brought up Joey Burrow. Now in the league, he said that instead of bringing in Joey at the time, he had just recruited Sam Ellinger, who was actually a big prospect in Texas at the time.
He was.
And so it's kind of funny how certain things do work out, right? But now jumping back into this is when we started doing the podcast, we started going about all these different avenues, all these networking that I didn't realize I had until we had them, right?
Right.
And then jumping into football, like I said, my son's a sophomore. So I know the Firebaugh sophomore class is pretty stacked, as well as Mendota's. So I know they're gonna be competitive for the next few seasons, right? In every sport, football, basketball, baseball, and so that's why, like, when I was like, okay, yeah, we can cover and do this, and then when we brought Adrian on, I had dropped Adrian's name on Tom's podcast because at the end of the day, we're talking about quarterbacks, right?
Right.
Adrian may not be as big so far as Josh ended up becoming, but we also have quarterbacks like Drew Brees, he's a Hall of Famer. And Adrian has that accuracy, that arm, right? So I had said, hey, man, this kid may be either get overlooked or may get recruited, or who knows what the case may be. He's having a great senior season so far.
Yeah, they are.
And
having a great year so far. They just beat last night.
Reedley.
They beat Reedley, and the week before they beat CVC.
Yeah.
So, and they're not in an easy league either. When you're playing teams like Kingsburg, CVC, Reedley.
Yeah.
Those are some teams that are really playmakers,
and they're always competitive.
Exactly,
they're always competitive, especially like you talk. Not to CVC or Reedley, but especially Kingsburg. They're
definitely.
always competitive in every sport that they play.
And then of course when you got teams like that run formations that you don't really see out here, because what I've gotten to know over the years, and I've learned this also from seeing when Mike Daniel was coaching out here in Firebaugh and Mendota, is the type of formations, mostly the offensive formations that are run out here, which is you either have teams in power I, or you have teams in shotgun formation quite often, or you see teams that run wing T, which is, I think that's now the formation of choice now is the wing T. But you have schools like Reedley who run triple option. Not many schools can run triple option, but when they do, and they do it, I'll say it, when they do it beautifully, it's tough to stop because you don't know if they're going to pitch it to the running back and give it back to the quarterback, or if the running back's going to take it. You don't know if they're going to, reverse it to the receiver, then he's going to go out for a big run or what have you. Just like with, triple options really, like a university that I can think of off the top of my head right now that runs triple option is Air Force. They run triple option and they do it fairly well for the most part. But to see high school, to see teams try or to actually run it like Reedley does, I know the coach. I've met the coach at Reedley, Tony Gates, which I'm not sure if he's still coaching there, but I met him and talked to him, and he's like, it's. I'm
gonna have to fact check you, dude.
Yeah,
because I'm telling you, I don't think Josh played in the game against Fresno State.
He probably either he.
I'm telling you because I watched. I say fact check you because you and Brian are on it, bro.
Yeah,
like, you guys know your sports, but I'm also an old sports head,
right.
And I believe I watched an interview one time. And Josh didn't play because he was hurt.
Either he did.
But he did say he was going to give it to Fresno State.
Yeah, he did.
He would never forgive them in the interview. So
no.
But we'll fact check it and then we'll always come back. Because I'm thinking that maybe even like I know Brian's kind of far, but maybe I can get you and Brian on, and then we could talk more Westside.
Yeah,
because that kid knows a lot, bro.
He does.
He talks about he's name dropping, kids from other schools, and like I said, it was more inspiring to me because I hate being in a conversation where I don't know what you guys are talking about. But I mean, you guys have been doing it he's been doing it since he was a senior in high school, so he's been doing it for 5-6 years now. You've been doing it for 13
years.
So I mean, I've been doing it for a few months, And the one thing about me, like I say, I like to make sure that if I'm going to be in a conversation, I want to make sure that I could hold my own and conversate.
Right.
Only teams I really can speak of. I mean, being from Mendota, the only ones I know the names of Mendota are the coaches. You know,
Right.
Coach Mejia, and
Yep.
Coach Cardenas. Right.
Yep.
I really don't know anybody else.
There's
Talking
also
about the kids. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no,
Um,
and Mejia, he's been there very long time. This is now his 15th year at the varsity level, but before that, he was at JV for quite a couple years, and under him, JV did really really well. And then his first couple of years at varsity, of course, when I was there, you know, consecutive Valley championships, and then 2016 was when they made their first state playoff appearance, and they traveled all the way to nearby. Well, I shouldn't say nearby, but the location we were at was nearby San Andreas.
oh, okay.
We played Calaveras High School in 2016, and we were, I believe that was in Division 6 AA, I believe. And then, and we lost a close game there. It was 21-14. I remember that.
Wow.
We lost. It was a close game, but to see that a small school like us were able to play at that level at the time, and then we would end up making another state appearance just a few years ago, but that was for the state championship. After we won, I believe it was 2, maybe 3 years ago, when we won the Division 6 section championship, beating Hanford West. And then we were waiting for the state bracket to come out, and we were thinking, oh, we're probably going to be in a regional bowl before we go, because usually some teams, just based on their division, they're either going to get a regional game, so they're going to play the game before they make it to a state championship game, or very lucky few will get to just straight up go to a championship game. And that year, Mendota was lucky enough to get an automatic bid to a state championship game, Division 7 AA. And they're playing Pinole Valley High School. That game wasn't as close, but Mendota, of course, and they got to host it too. So that was a historic year for Mendota, being in a state championship game.
And they hosted it in
They
Mendota?
hosted it in Mendota.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, they hosted it in Mendota against Pinole Valley High School. And leading up to that day, I spoke with the principal of Pinole Valley High School, and we talked, and it was their first that year they won their first, I think it was their first league title or the first section title for their section since the 70s. And now they were playing it for a state championship game. So he was talking to me about how the community is excited, they're supporting their team, they rallying behind the teams and the coaches, and we're looking forward to the game just as we were looking forward to it out here, because again, it was the first time that we were playing in it, first time we were even hosting it. So, you know, that was just I remember that game, it was packed in Mendota, and I'll tell you, all these schools out here in the Westside and the league, every game that I've gone to in my time doing this, I always look at the home stands, and they are always filled. There's not many empty rows or empty seats, because that's how you know that the community supports their football team. Of course, they're supporting the kids, but they're there every Friday night, whether it's home or away. You know, they travel well and they host well. And I've been to all of the current 6 league teams. I've been to all of their stadiums, all their fields. and I would see it always there, whether they're having a good year or they're having a bad year. They're always going to be there the community is always going to be there to support the kids, to support the teams. And that's just, especially, you know, whether it's a small school or a big school, that's very beautiful to see the support that they're getting from even people that aren't even related to them, you know, because the players are going to be like, oh, my families are there, my friends are up there. But then you got everyone else that they either know of or don't know of, and they're there supporting the team. You know, that's.
No, yeah. Like I said, I'm going to be honest. I'm more of the one, like, my wife always wanted to go to games. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, you know, at the time our son was in high school. So I was like, why? You know, and I know it shouldn't be that way. But at the time I had a job. I was really busy. So most times my downtime, I wanted to just be. Now it's kind of funny because we're spending a lot of our Friday nights at games, you know, but it's because we're covering.
Right.
And now that the goal for us, like I said, how this started is eventually now that we've kind of did year one and I have an idea of how I want to run it. I want to eventually I'm only going to podcast with seniors. So that way it gives the kids an opportunity. Like they worked hard, only seniors will come on the podcast. And I'm planning on either doing it at their school, or hopefully by then we have our studio up and running, and we could do it in our studio here at because in the garage. But I plan on mainly doing it at their school, so that way their media teams can be involved, and we can make it more like a project. Right. I truly believe, back to the timing, when we do get blessed, and as far as we're already blessed, but I'm saying as far as when this thing starts to kick off and really do stuff, like I said, I don't think we really give ourselves enough credit as far as who's come on the podcast. Having Tom Herman was huge for us.
Oh yeah.
I think, a lot of times in the Valley, a lot of people don't know who he is, but he's a national champion coach, coached Houston, Texas, FAU. He should get back into coaching next year, so I believe that was huge for us. And then getting kids like Adrian, we're going to go after the Clovis quarterback kid, the one that just decommitted from Oregon.
Deegan Rose.
And we're going to try to get him to come on.
Yeah.
We're going to continue. We had Adam Placencia, not football, but baseball related. He just committed to UC San Diego.
Yes, indeed.
And so this year.
He's got roots in Mendota and played at Clovis. Clovis West. Well, he played at Buchanan and then Clovis West.
No, Clovis West and then Buchanan.
Okay, so I had the other way around.
Yeah.
But
he's at Buchanan currently right now, but about to be a senior.
Yeah, no.
Or he is a senior.
He's a senior, and I've known him since he was a little kid. I went to school with Joel Placencia. I went to school with him. We played basketball. He played varsity. I played JV. Of course, I know I know his dad. Mario. I know him. I know his family pretty well. His parents and stuff like that. I know him pretty well. And
shout out to the Placencia family.
Shout out to the Placencia. Yeah. When I heard about that, when I heard the news, I ran into him in town, or I think it was out in Fresno. I ran into his family. And I told him that I was real excited, real proud of Adam, and because he played youth sports in Mendota.
Yeah, he did.
Played high school.
Well, Dad was the varsity basketball coach for a little while.
His dad was, and now again, not just about football, but all the sports out here have had great coaches.
No, yeah.
Like you talk about Beto Mejia, we talk about Mike Martinez, started here in Firebaugh, went to Mendota, went to West College. Coach Josh Allen, exactly.
Coach Mag.
Coach Mag, of course.
Legend.
Can't not mention Coach Mag, man. Not many people know this, but I was actually being potentially looked at to join Firebaugh's coaching staff under Magnuson.
For football?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. They didn't really know where they were going to put me at or what I would be really doing, but they had kind of considered me for an opportunity. Of course, I ended up going to someone else or something like that. But just to know that my football knowledge was giving me a potential shot at a coaching job somewhere.
Is that the goal for you, eventually, to go coach?
I mean, well, because I coach youth sports now. Aside from doing this, I also coach youth sports. I've been doing that since also I was a senior in high school. So I was doing this, but I was also kind of trying to get into youth coaching. But of course, you're a senior. You're doing all these things a senior should be doing. Going out to like senior grad night, sober grad, all that stuff like that. And of course, making sure I was to get my keep my grades in check, make sure everything was gonna go to plan. So I said, you know what? I'll wait till I graduate and then I'll jump into coaching. And I've coached at the youth level. I've coached basketball. I've coached flag football. It was actually because, again, we go back to Mike Martinez. He started a flag football league in Tranquility because, that's where, he's, people know him from coaching out here in Firebaugh, but he has roots in Tranquility. He attended Tranquility High School. And now he's the head football coach, and he's also, I believe, their athletic director, or they have someone else as athletic director. But he also gives back a lot to the youth out there, to Tranquility, San Joaquin, those areas, since there's not many opportunities for them, and that's what he's done. So he started a flag football league, and I reached out to him, and I was one of the few coaches. He also reached out to the gentleman that runs the Pop Warner out here in Firebaugh. Can't remember his name. I think it's Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his first name, but Garcia. he reached out to him, and he took 2 teams out there to join that league as well. And then he had, of course, the people that were there in Tranquility, San Joaquin area, and of course, I was the only one from Mendota out there. And he put a league together with 2 divisions, a junior division and a senior division. And I was coaching in the junior division, so about like 8-10-year-old kids. And you know, there's the kids that I coached that year, they're now playing sports at high school level, and you know, they turn out to be pretty good players. And I remember I coached a team over there, and our team name was the SJ Eagles, because of course, like I said, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, but I'm a fan for Josh Allen also. SJ Eagles, because of course if I'm in San Joaquin, I got to give them the recognition. So SJ San Joaquin Eagles, because you know I'm an Eagles guy. So and there was some competitive games and stuff like that, and I was there and I enjoyed it. But there was a time for about almost 2 weeks where I wasn't out there, but that was because I contracted COVID and was at home quarantining. But I kept track. You know, I contacted my parents and asked them how the game went, and a big thing for youth sports, and I think, and maybe I'm sure you're probably aware of this too. I don't know if your kid played youth sports when he was younger.
Yeah.
You know, what a lot of coaches lean on is the support of parents and support of their assistants and what have you. And I was out there coaching when I was calling the players and stuff like that, talking with parents and stuff like that. And then when they finally got to meet them, you know, like once I established a relationship with them and stuff like that, I had great help with my parents and support as well. So when I was down with COVID for the time that I was, they stepped up, took care of the team, had the practices and stuff like that, and kept me in contact of how they were doing at the games and stuff like that. And then when I got back out there, you know, continued where we left off, and I ended up playing against Firebaugh for the junior division championship in that league. The Firebaugh team that they had in that division was undefeated, and we were 3-3. And I'm like, and we had lost a close game to them before, so we're like, okay, now's our chance to get back at them. And it was a close game, competitive game, but at the end, my Eagles beat their Eagles.
Oh wow!
And and it was great. You know, I still have a photo that we took afterwards with the kids that I had, and again, now they're older and they're in high school and they're playing sports there, which I hoped for. As I think all coaches that start them, that have them as youth kids, they're like, they hope they can continue. They play in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, like I said, I coach flag football, coach basketball. My kids that I had in basketball, they're now playing high school, and I had both girls and boys, and they're doing really, really well out there. Let's see. I've coached 1 year of Cal Ripken baseball here in Firebaugh, and then my first year, I won the division here as well. Again, Mike.
So you went one and done and you left, or what?
Well, no, not that. It's because after a while, you know, things started to pick up for me somewhere else, and but I would eventually come back and help out Mike Daniel as being an umpire, because I've done umpiring now for going on almost 6 years now. I started in Clovis a couple years ago.
Okay.
And I've been doing it out there since. And oh boy. The stories I can tell about my experiences with people in Clovis, man, I'm telling you. But
yeah, people can be very unique.
Yeah,
when it comes to sports.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like they like.
No, I get it.
How should I say this? Like, there's like, you know, like you hear like, oh, sometimes the parents try to relive their glory days through their kids and stuff like that. I feel like some of them, not all of them. Because I've had some pleasant experiences out there for as long as I've been doing it out there. But, you know, the few times where I've had to eject coaches, eject parents and stuff like that, it can get pretty interesting.
Yeah, in my prime, when Lou was coming up, you would have probably ejected me. You know, I was one of those parents that would get a little, get a little loud
and excited. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, let. You know,
but I think you hit it on the money. I think that I would all my friends, Mario and Tito, you know,
Who
their
was one of my
boys,
coaches. Tito was one of my coaches.
those their boys were excelling. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I went straight into a career that was just boom. You know, and I felt like when I got into it, you know, usually when you're getting excited in the younger days of your kid coming up,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that when my boy was already 10, 11, 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mario and Tito already had experiences with it. So they kind of were
Right.
more just accustomed and used to stuff happening. And my boy was a little, you know, catching up because he didn't play most of his younger years, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't really involved. I was more working,
Mm-hmm.
trying to advance. And then I felt like when I got in it and we started coaching Cal Ripken, we did their 12U. Me and Tito had helped them out, and then we took them to the tournament, and you know, kind of got to experience that. That's why I tell you, the sophomore class right now, that class was the one we had them when they were younger, you know.
Yeah, and they're gonna
And
be
so there's a lot of talent. You know?
Yes.
And I seen both. Like I said, we played Mendota a lot, so we interacted with Mendota to bring. I think they brought either one or two teams, and then we had Firebaugh's teams, right?
Yeah.
And so I got to see the sophomore class that's over there now, and I got to see our sophomore class, and so our freshman class too, and then some of our eighth graders. But I understand like there's a lot of talent coming up. At the time, I just didn't know how to. I think I would get a little too aggressive with my son and some of the kids.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm reliving my time playing. I got to just let them play. You know?
Yeah.
We had aggressive coaches, not aggressive coaches, but unique coaches. Coach Clark, you know, he wasn't gonna really. Now I'm not, and I'm just kind of going off of what I see. Even talking to the coaches now, like there's certain things you can tell a kid and you can't. And I mean, you should never be able to tell a kid something where it's going to be demeaning or
Right.
you're going to cuss at them. But that tough coaching,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist because it still does,
Yeah.
but it's very few because now you can get a complaint from a parent or the kid or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You know, in today's
environment,
yeah, society, it's sometimes not acceptable, right?
Right.
And so I feel like there's a bunch of you have to kind of walk on eggshells when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? And kind of watch what you say, watch what you don't. I truly believe, like I was telling Coach Moreno, shout out to Coach Moreno, he came on Fresno City Wrestling. Some of the kids were calling him by his first name,
right?
You know, and I was
that's definitely a no-no.
And I mean, once again, I think it's back to the era we're in now. I think the kids are being brought up that way in certain areas, not all areas, right? And like Coach Moreno said, that's just the way some of these kids have been brought up. He doesn't take it as disrespect. Some other coaches out there that get called by their first name or they don't call him coach, I feel like as long as they know their player, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, from seeing it from afar, you know, you'd be like, what, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of unusual. I mean, I've told my kids that I've coached over the years, and now in the time that I've coached in high school, because I do have some high school coaching experience in soccer, which I'm also currently doing right now. So currently, I'm also coaching at Mendota Junior High.
Okay.
I'm an assistant coach for the boys soccer team, my second year there, and also and I will be in my second year for the JV boys soccer team at Mendota High. And you know, in that short amount of time, the head coach would let me know like, hey, this is Coach Kevin, and the players would call me either Coach Kevin or they would call me Kevin, which in Mendota I don't mind. I don't really mind because everyone knows me by my name. You know, in Mendota it's not that hard. In Mendota, Firebaugh, wherever I go, you know, and coaching wherever I've been coaching at, you know, so, but it's like I said, I've coached, I'm doing this, I umpire, like I mentioned, and going back to, like I said, I've been doing it now for about 2-3 years now for Mike out here in Colorado and Firebaugh.
I'll have to catch you out there because we did interview with, like I said, with Mike. We talked about when we first
yeah.
jumped in it. I'll have to go check you out this year.
Yeah,
if you're
I probably more than likely will be. You know, he does what he does. Because he knows I'm out there in Clovis too while his season's going on. So we make it work, me and him. And
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what's the point? Why do you go to Clovis compared to like obviously being local?
Well, I mean, it's just.
Is it because you're getting paid to be out there?
Well, yeah. I mean, he pays me here too. Don't get me wrong. It's not because of that. And of course, I don't really do it for the money. The money's nice. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, I do it because I want to give back. You know, because if you think about it, besides having the players there, besides having the coaches there, what else do you need for a game to take place? You need officials. You need umpires. You need someone to call the rules of the game. And yeah, I know all of us, and I say all of us because we all like to we like to give it to the refs because they're like, oh, they're not calling a game fair. They're leaning towards one side or the other. But now that I've been umpiring and officiating for the 5 years that I've been doing it, I've now seen it. I can say I've seen it from their perspective, and when I do what I do out there umpiring, I look at it from the point of view as an umpire, but also where the coaches are coming from when they're asking me questions or talking to me about a judgment call or a bad call that I may have made. If it's a bad call, then I'll be like, okay, maybe I missed it. I'll do better to see it next time. But a judgment call, which in my assigner in Clovis, he taught us that, for a judgment call, if a coach is going to get in you for a judgment call, then you just have to be firm about it because it's a coaches shouldn't really be arguing a judgment call because it's just whatever the situation is and what's going on.
I mean, I think that varies though. If the judgment call is something where we're going to close game, I'm going to come at you like, Kevin, you're killing me.
Yeah.
You're hurting my guys out here. Like,
I'm trying. I mean, and then what I would say is like, I've, all my times that I've had those situations where coaches will try to get at me for a judgment call or even some where they try to for strikes and balls. I'm like, Coach, I'm seeing the game. I am calling it as best as I can. I am not a robot. I am going to make mistakes, but I am calling it as best as I can for both sides. I'm not leaning towards one. I'm not leaning towards another, especially in Clovis because I don't have any relations to Clovis. Mm-hmm. So the parents that I've dealt with over there, like I said, I've had some good relationships out there. Some of them be like, you're killing me. And I'm like, I'm doing it to the best of my ability. We all are. All of us are,
Yeah.
And so, but I had the pleasure of being out here umpiring with late Noe Tovar.
Yeah. I was about to, now that you brought him up, R.I.P. to Noe.
R.I.P. to Noe, yeah.
That was one of the guys that I talked about, like, when my first year coaching, and Noe would sometimes call, and I would tell him, like, Noe, in the most respectful way, because Noe, I remember when our first game, he kicked out the other coach. Mm-hmm. And I would tell him, like, hey, you're volunteering your time. I understand this. But just like I told you, and I was like, you're kind of killing me because I'm telling my kids to be here, but you're calling ball, you're calling strike, you're calling ball, you're calling strike. And then he broke it down the best way he could.
And that's what I try to do.
But it's about building that relationship too. Yeah. As an umpire, like you said, as a coach, we have to come out and try to understand, like, if it's like Noe was a local guy. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, he was always for the kids too.
Yeah.
Obviously, you being in Clovis or wherever the case may be, it does not matter. Some people that umpire do it for money, And so if you're in an arena or in a tournament and you're not from the area, it could be a little different, right? Because that coach may not know you,
right?
So they're going to come at you a certain way.
Yeah.
And here was different because everybody knew Noe, right? And so like when we talked, even after the games, he would come out to me and come here, like, and he would tell the kids, like, hey, this is why I called it here. This is why I did this. And I always thought that was cool because at practice I could be like, hey, remember what Noe told you, right? And then from there, like the whole point of it, at least for Firebaugh at the time, and that's what I liked about how Mike and them were trying to run it, was at the end of the day, we would tell the kids, it's competitive with one another, but one day you guys are all going to just be Firebaugh.
Exactly.
And you're going to go against other schools,
Yeah.
And I think that was the more important thing at the end of the day.
And that's what I also try to do too. Also, like whenever some situations happen and stuff like that, I'll talk with the coaches afterwards. I'll go up to the player who had a situation, and I'll tell them this is why I did this, and this is how. Because I feel like when I'm having those conversations, I'm going from like I'm in between an umpire and a coach because I see it from an umpire's point of view and I see it from a coach's point of view because I can say I've been in both positions. So that's what I would also do. And the next time I have that team or that coach, and I see that they made those, I mentioned to them, and they see the adjustments they made and whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we remembered what you said, and you helped us out a little bit." So and I do it, when I do it here in Firebaugh, because Firebaugh you have folks from Firebaugh and Mendota.
Yeah, no, you really do. I mean, look at me and Tito. We're from Mendota, but we live in Firebaugh.
Yeah, and so I've been helping out with Mike for a couple of years. Like I said,
Mike from Mendota.
Exactly. His
Firebaugh.
his mom Nancy and I can't remember his dad's name was is it also Mike? Or,
I'm gonna be honest, bro. You kind
you
of
know,
catching me off guard.
okay.
Right? I don't.
But his parents.
I don't want to be wrong.
Right. But his parents out there, um, actually ran the his mom Nancy ran, or his mom ran Westside Youth for as long as they did, and that's where the Cobras are.
Yeah. Well, if you think of Cobras, you think of Mike and Nick.
Exactly.
You know,
Coach Nick. Yeah. I've actually done a few games for Nick, who lives in Kerman. He does what's called the Prodigies out there in Kerman, and I've done games for him, umpired games for him as well. So, both knowing both Coach Nick, Coach Mike.
So have you considered, now that you're in umpiring, have you considered maybe doing high school?
That's what people have been telling me, like, hey, have you considered doing junior high school? And I'm like, maybe, I mean, I know that the rules are a little bit different and everything else like that. I actually did do one. I did it like they paid me and I did it. I helped out the Mendota baseball team. They needed an umpire. They were doing like this exhibition game against Firebaugh. Mm-hmm. And we did it right there at the high school.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Tony, Coach Chris. They're supposed to come on the podcast too.
Tony Rojas and
hopefully we get them on.
And coach for Firebaugh, which I'm blanking out on the name right
now. Now it's Joey Ochoa, but it used to be Alex Gutierrez.
Right. So Coach Gutierrez and Coach Ochoa. So I did that, and that's when most people have been asking me, like, why, like, have I considered it? And I'm like, maybe, but I still kind of like want to get a little bit more familiar with it more and stuff like that. So, and then of course, like I said, I do it because I want to get back to the youth. I want to get back to the kids.
Yeah.
Like Noe, he did the same thing. He wanted to get back to the youth. He wanted to get back to the kids. And, I know when I would be out there with Noe, of course, one of the big things he would always be excited about was his own kids, mm-hmm. especially his daughters who played basketball here in Firebaugh and now are playing basketball at Mendota. Mm-hmm. They both transferred to Mendota, and
that's a whole other topic right there too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, he was proud of the kids out here, but he, of course, first things first, he's going to be proud of his own kids.
For sure.
So, when I heard that he had passed away, I couldn't believe it, because I had just talked to him a few months before when we were out here for baseball. And, he was also kind of giving me some advice too and stuff like that. So when I heard it happen, I was like, came for the services, and, that's when I really first met his family, his daughters and his wife and everything. And, and then after that, when I would attend the Firebaugh games out here for basketball, for our league games or what have you, I'd go up to them and, because I got to know them, a little bit, with all that going on and stuff like that. So, so whenever I'm out there coaching and I put tape on my wrist, and I write people's initials on it, people that have passed away, I also include Noe's initials right there because he was a friend of mine.
Yeah. And
that's my way to honor his memory, having his initials on me when I'm out there coaching, and, other people that I've known, that my friends and even some family members I've done it for, and I'll continue to do it for as long as I'm here, So at the end of the day, sports, it's, athletics, competitive environment, but at the end of the day, when you're a part of a team, it's like your extended family.
No, yeah, I think people, like I said, working for the, in law enforcement for the amount of time that I did, over 10 plus years, I feel like sports had a lot to do with it. You're working in a team environment. You got to learn how to communicate, the trust, the bond you build with, when you're on a sports team for many years, all the practices you put in. Think of it in law enforcement, especially in corrections specifically, you get involved in a lot of different incidents, so you have to be able to count on your brother and your sister, so at the end of the day, I always relate back to my sports. I felt like if I, being competitive too, being in law enforcement, at the end of the day, it's you're there to do a job, but sometimes that job, it could be difficult to get through the day or the night or the week. And a lot of times it's competitive, I'll be honest, at the end of the day, you put on a uniform, but you're still a human being.
Yep.
So if you're dealing with people that are incarcerated at the time, they're people too, but sometimes they want to give you a little bit of, problems,
They want
troubles,
to
issues.
they want to give you a hard time.
And so you just have to be able to come together as a squad, as a team, because you're with anywhere from one to seven officers, so it just depends, right? But yeah, no, sports is huge. It plays a big role. But kind of talking about Noe real fast and just jumping into that and how we talked about that. I tell everyone that comes on the podcast, what is your relationship like with the Lord?
I mean, I know he's there for me, and I feel like, you know, he. I definitely, every morning when I wake up, I pray, thanking him that he allowed me to wake up and go around my day, and then of course, whenever I'm in times of, you know, I guess you could say going through, trials and tribulations like everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
I go to him and I, look through on my phone. I'll look through, you know, verses and stuff for whatever my situation is. And so I, you know, I know he's there. I know he's always going to be there, for me, when I've had my own issues and when I've had, whether it's myself or when my family has had are going through some stuff, or when we're going through a loss of family member, like what I just went through um Thursday evening in Mexico, in Mexicali, where most of my family is from.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't find out until yesterday, was my brother-in-law's mother had unfortunately passed away. So
Sorry for your loss.
thank you. And so I contacted my sister who I'm out of six. I have three sisters and I have two more brothers.
Okay.
And so I have a sister that lives in Mendota, one that lives in Fresno, one that lives in Mexicali. And I contacted the one in Mexicali because, of course, that was her mother-in-law. And, I asked them how they're doing and stuff like that. And I told them that, that, we're here for you guys out here, and we're praying for you guys and stuff like that. And then back in May, I lost one of my aunts. She had a sudden heart attack. Lost one of my aunts in King City. I have family up north in King City, which is about an hour from Salinas, about 2 hours from Mendota. And that was a difficult time for our family, difficult time for me, because I had just talked to her on the phone about a couple of weeks before that, because they were driving down to Mendota to visit. Well, they were going to Fresno, but because they have family in Fresno, but they have us in Mendota. But I was on my way to work, so my uncle had called me and saying, because he knows the general direction of where our house is, but he just wanted the actual address to make sure. So I gave him the address. I was on my way driving to work, and I'm like, oh, can I talk to my aunt? He's like, oh yeah. So I talked with my aunt and stuff like that. She asked me how I was doing. I'm like, oh, I'm on my way to work right now, and she's like, oh, I can't believe we're gonna miss you. We're gonna be here for a little bit with your mom, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe hopefully the next time we see each other. And then of course, a couple weeks later, she ended up passing away. But I at least got to have that conversation with her, and both of them are really, they honestly had a good relationship with the Lord. So I know when she passed, I know where she's at. She's in a better place. She's watching over us. She's watching over me. And, and then of course, just this past Tuesday I mentioned I had two other brothers. I have one here and I have one in heaven. This past Tuesday was 13 years now that I lost my brother, one of my brothers. And
sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And that one was, I mean, well, think about it. When you lose a loved one, family member or a loved one, it's always going to be difficult. And over the years, time goes by, your life goes on, but whenever that anniversary comes, you start to get the feelings of what you felt like when it happened. And for me, most people sometimes think I wouldn't say crazy, but they just had a hard time believing that I went through the process that day of the grieving process, and which I felt like I did, because I went from, like denial first, and I think anger, and then later on finally acceptance. I went through that process that day of. It was a Sunday. My mom went to work. She was working IHSS at the time, so she went to work in Kermit at the time. And my brother was visiting us because he did live with us for a good while, but then he ended up staying in Mexicali for a good while, living on my grandma's ranch, and he was working over there too. So, but he was coming out. He came to visit us, and he was actually planning on leaving the next day or so back to Mexicali. And then, it happened. He passed away, but I had no idea. None of us knew he was even at the house until my mom came home and found him. And from there, it broke loose. And then I went through it all. And, I'll admit I may have attempted some things that I'm not proud of. But at the time, I was going through grief. And when people go through grief, they do things they don't realize what they're doing until afterwards. So, happened on a Sunday, and a couple of days later, we had a service and everything. And, every year and every month on the 7th, because it happened October 7th of 2012. So every month of the 7th, I especially I look up and, I pray, and I ask God to let him know that I love him, I miss him. And, because when I was younger, my brother had said, when you turn 21, we're going to go out and get a beer together. Because obviously that's when I can buy it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we waited, and then of course that day never came. But I remember my 21st birthday, I went to the store. One of my other brothers. So when I say I have 3 brothers, that's between my mom, but I have more because of course, my dad has more kids. And I'm one of his sons also. So when I ran into my brother from my dad's side.
Your stepbrother.
My stepbrother. Well, no. I think more I don't know if it's step or half, because that brother is from, me and him, we share the same dad, but he has a different mom than I do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's a step or if that's a half. Either way, I never look at it that way. He's my brother. I'm his brother. I have sisters. They're my sisters. I don't pay attention to, they're my stepsister, my half sibling. No, they're my brother and they're my sister.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. So he saw me at that store and he knew it was my birthday. So he gave me $20 also. And I bought my beer, showed the guy my ID. And then I also bought a scratcher too. A lot of scratchers to see how lucky I can get. I ended up winning $20 on the scratcher.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. So maybe it was a birthday blessing or what have you. But then I got the beer and went to the cemetery where my brother is. He's in St. Peter's in Fresno. And I bought one for him too. Opened it, poured some on his thing, and then left it on his grave. And then I opened mine and I drank some of mine too. And, in one way or another, we ended up still having that beer together. Just, I'm here and he's there. And so, he was really the guy who taught me how to play sports, taught me how to play soccer, taught me how to play basketball, taught me how to shoot pool, so, when it comes, family, stuff like that, it means a lot, and I do this and I carry my 2 last names. I have 2 last names, Arias Romero, which I introduced myself to in the beginning of this. And I'm proud of both last names, and I carry it with me. And I hope when I myself am lucky to have a family, I would like for them to carry my last name. And, I wouldn't say it's a goal, but when I eventually have a kid, and if it happens to be a son, just like how you have your kid, you said he's named after you. I would like for him to be named after me, so because, family, for me, it's family, it's sports, it's all that is really who I am. I care about my family. I care about my friends. I care about what I do. I care about giving back to my community, to my schools that have done so much for me. It's the least that I can do to give back to them. And going back to Noe, what he did for the community, he gave back to the community. Aside from being a dad to his kids, you can even say he was maybe, besides being a coach for those kids, he was maybe another dad for those kids too.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what those kids' situations are like at home. We only see them at practices and whenever either parent comes and are there with them. And that's what I also kind of try to do too. I tell my kids when we have our first practice, I tell my kids, from this day on, you guys are not just teammates. You guys are brothers. Or if I have a co-ed team, you guys are brothers and sisters. And if you guys see me as a coach, great. If you guys see me as another sibling or father figure, great. Because that's what I try to do. I try to be that figure for them, as well as being a coaching figure. I try to, if they need me to be like an older brother, or they need me to be like a father figure, then I'll try to do the best I can, because that's what we all can do. Is at the end of the day, we try the best we can. We do the best we can.
No, you're right. I think I try to talk about it on some certain podcasts about you never know what someone is going through behind closed doors. You know, everyone could put on a front, and you're only going to share what you want to share, right? And you kind of hit it on the money that you don't know. So that's why I feel like as I've kind of grown, and as this is growing, and as I'm interacting with different kids throughout the valley, you know, specifically on the west side, I'm just trying to be that, to let them know, like, hey, I feel like the Lord's still writing my story. My testimony is still being written, going from law enforcement to a manager at a tire company, and then now a podcaster, right? Yeah. And so I feel like the Lord this is only the beginning. I have been blessed with my networking and connections, where I feel like it's a matter of time before this podcast is going to the next level. And this is year one of, I feel like, hopefully many more to come, because as I begin to cover, meeting people like you and like Brian, haven't met Pag Meter yet, or haven't met the Central
guy.
Yeah. But I mean, as I kind of get involved and see, I want to cover, but I kind of just want to assist in helping you guys cover. My goal, for me at least, is to podcast with the students and the athletes. But obviously, as I'm covering that week, I would like to know more, and I want to be able to attend the games. Like this Friday, this past Friday we covered Riverdale, but our daughter had gotten sick, and my wife is my camera girl. So at the end of the day, if I mean, I can go myself, but I'm not going to be able to capture the pictures that I would want it. And so we didn't be able to make it out. Same thing with Carruthers. We didn't get to make it at the Carruthers game, and it's a little further out. Like right now too, we're not a paid podcast. And everything's coming out of pocket.
And I'm not a paid reporter either.
And so I mean, and I think at the end of the day, when the Lord does allow it and the time is right, back to Isaiah 60:22, my favorite Bible verse, I feel like that's what I want to do. I want to be able to give back to the youth, give back to the communities, let everyone know out there that I'm just a Mendota boy. Yeah. That it didn't happen overnight. Like, I didn't have the ability to communicate the way I did when I was younger. It took some time to be able to learn, live a little life, being in behind the walls, and you really get to talk to, once again, back to incarcerated people. They can tell you from their experiences, and then you kind of learn, I'm going to be honest. So in this field, I feel like podcasting, you're going to learn after your interactions, people you meet, you know. You saw that day, and not only did I meet you, I was meeting other people, not only from Coalinga, but from the Chain Gang and people from Firebaugh. Everywhere we went, we've interacted and we've networked.
And Firebaugh's got nothing but friendly people. And I know a good group of people out here in Firebaugh. Like I said, I know some of the assistant coaches. I know them. Isaiah Olivas, I know him. I know a lot of them out there too. And they're, they see me around, and
I think Isaiah's my cousin.
Isaiah Olivas?
On my mom's side.
Oh, yeah. They call him Country. Yeah. Okay, well, there you go.
Shout out to Country.
Shout out to Country, yeah.
He actually got real close to my boy Tito.
Right.
And so it's funny because right before our podcast, who called me?
Tito.
And that's been my best friend since we were like fourth graders.
Yeah, and Tito and his brother.
Yeah. G baby.
Yeah, they were my baseball coaches when I played baseball for Mendota for a little bit.
See how it all comes back kind of full circle?
Exactly, it does.
So it's kind of cool to see. Like I said, I mean, you're not. I call you a youngster because you were younger than me. You didn't even interact with us when you come in across when we were kind of growing up and playing sports, and but obviously now you're in your 30s, right? Yeah. Early 30s.
Just started in my 30s.
And then we're talking about how Mendota built that foundation. We had on Coach Quintanar and Coach Gamis.
Yep. I went to school with Carlos Quintanar. Me and him were from the same graduating class.
He just had a birthday, so happy birthday! Shout out to you as well,
neighbor. There he is.
And then Coach Gamis, which is kind of crazy to say because I had his dad Martin, and then obviously the legend himself at the school.
Finally retired. Finally,
he just retired.
He finally retired. Yeah, Coach Gamis. About I think it was last year. I think last year or the year before. I think it was last year.
Really?
Yeah, finally finally hung up the whistle and the coaching
Not from teaching though.
Yeah, no, teaching. He's done from teaching.
He just retired from teaching as well.
Yeah, he's not there no more.
Oh wow, that's breaking news right here.
Yeah, yeah, he's done teaching there.
I'm gonna have to get at him to come on the podcast.
I didn't when I first heard about him. We're talking about Joe Gammas. Yeah. When I first heard about him from my sister, again because she's class of 05, just like
I'm 06.
And 06, and she knows your wife.
Yeah.
So, my sister told me, he calls everyone by their last name. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, then that's interesting.
Or if you were kind of, once again, if you were, he knew you a little bit, or you were his athlete, he called you another nickname too.
Yeah, which he did for me.
Call you Fats, or not you, but he'd call you Fats, or he'd call you Pup.
He would call me Fats too a couple of times too. But when he met me and I told him who my sister was and everything, he's like, "That's your sister?" I'm like, "Yeah," and then he's like, "Oh, but you have different last names," and I'm like, "Yeah, she has her dad's last name, but she also has Romero too." But I'm Kevin and then Romero. So sometimes he would do Big K or K-Ro.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
No, yeah, right. He would. I'm saying he would call, like I said, he'd say call some of us like Fats, and then he'd call of us like Kid or whatever the case may be. But it was always like in fun.
Yeah. We get it. Yeah, he's done teaching. Finally retired from that.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, finally retired from teaching, and of course, the wrestling coaches, like Carlos, Tony.
Yeah.
He also has a couple other people out there too that are helping him out. So.
Yeah, we had them on the podcast. So they see. Not only are we doing football, but the next sport is basketball and wrestling, and so we're going to cover both.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier. You mentioned Coach Clark, Alan Clark, right?
Yeah, that was my coach in high school.
He coached basketball. He's coaching the junior high basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
They just won a championship, their second championship last year, back to back. So now they're going to try to go for the three-peat this upcoming season. And of course, one of his sons, Elijah, he's coaching the varsity boys basketball team. Just about 2 years ago, took him to the section championship game.
Dude. Heartbreaker.
Lost to Coalinga. I was there.
They were up 20 at the half.
About 19, 20 points at the half.
Yeah.
But
I heard about it.
And then seeing Coalinga, but that was their first for Coalinga. I think it was going to be a first for either one, because I can't remember the last time boys basketball won a championship. But I know Coalinga, they hadn't won one either. And so seeing Coalinga do that, Coach Jason McFarland, the head coach for the boys basketball in Coalinga, really good coach. And another really good coach too is Coach Walker. He's the girls basketball coach for Coalinga. He's someone that Coach Reyes knows really.
Another good basketball coach. That's
Jose Reyes.
Coach Reyes.
Right. I went to school with his brother Christian. Yeah. I went to school with him.
My brother-in-law. Shout out to him.
Yeah, Christian. I haven't seen him in a while. Hope he's doing well. But he and of course also in that same year that the boys went to the championship, the girls went to the championship too. Losing to Emmanuel.
But they were in D4. Remember we're talking about bumping up.
Yeah. But
Junior probably would have won it in 6 or 5 for sure. And then they put him in. And then he was a low seed. Mm-hmm. Then he won a bunch of games, got to the title.
Yeah. So that just shows what
I know. He's pretty happy about the team that he has this year. He seems pretty confident. Obviously, you touched on a little bit the transfers he's getting from the Tovar sisters.
Tovar sisters coming
and
one's a junior and one's
sophomore.
So he's gonna have at least one. He's gonna have both from.
They have to sit out though. I think they're sitting out till league starts.
No,
I'm just telling you from what I heard from Coach Reyes.
I mean, I believe so. Well, I heard that too.
See, we're gonna have to fact check. Every time you come on now, if we start doing little things, because
that's fine.
I've been catching you on certain things, but I mean, I don't
heard that too.
I don't know 100%.
Which is what I was gonna say too. I've heard.
But I mean, Coach Reyes himself told me they're sitting out
until league.
I think until league play.
Okay.
Because remember they're transferred.
They transfer.
So they have to take that month.
Yeah,
30 days or something like that.
At least it's a month, and not unlike where it could have been the whole season.
Yeah,
the whole year.
Oh yeah.
But I believe it's because since they transferred before the school year ended, I believe that's how it worked. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. I just kind of, like I said, me and Junior are very close. We've always been close since we were little kids.
Right.
We played sports together. He graduated 07, I graduated 06.
Right.
And then his brother married my wife's sister.
Right.
So now we're like legit family,
Family,
uncles
yeah.
to nieces and a nephew.
Yeah.
So we hang out a lot. He comes over. We host a Bible study every Wednesday, so you're welcome to always stop by.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's kind of been, our relationship has grown obviously in the Lord. And as I started doing this podcast, that's kind of what I wanted to implement. I mean, if you obviously you were a little younger, but if people out there that especially from my hometown of Mendota, and they get to see me, they're like, bro, that's Louis was never. And that's why I feel like that's how good God is, that I wasn't. I didn't know the Lord. And I was always blessed, bro. I'm still blessed. I'm saying I was always given opportunities, man. Like when I got in with, the sheriff department, I got to get in there, advance there, and it was really great. Good guys became manager right away. It was great, right?
Yeah.
And now the podcast is kind of, we're growing. We're getting there. And the whole time, though, I had to give the praise and the honor and the glory to the Lord. This is about Him. And as I'm meeting these kids, meeting people like yourself, and meeting other people, it's the coaches. Like I said, a lot of these coaches have been just unbelievable. Very welcoming, and just seeing that the beauty that they're doing for their community and these kids. Like I said, I gave a couple shout outs. I forgot to give a shout out to the the Liberty. So Coach Mike, and then we forgot to give out to Kerman, Coach Jenkins,
Coach Jenkins.
So they've been great. Like I said, I'm really thankful to them.
And then someone else to mention too, because you talked about how you met Coach Watson from Coalinga.
Yeah.
80 Mike Jaycott.
He actually the one that shot me to Coach Watson. Yeah. And I actually met him, and I got to give a shout out to one of our team members, Pedro Garcia. He actually linked us. That's how we ended up getting with Coalinga. Hopefully we haven't reached out. We don't have a team this week. I don't know if I'm going to drop the podcast in time for it to be out there. I might do a video.
Right.
We've kind of gotten reached out by certain community members.
Right.
Like from Parlier and Fowler. And we were trying to either go, if we go there, depends how it works out.
I mean, honestly, because I probably will be heading out to Coalinga Mendota. You should probably just end up just driving to Coalinga and checking that game out. And if you haven't been to Coalinga before,
well, we covered Coalinga, remember?
But
and we went out there.
No, but that was when Coalinga came here to Firebaugh.
No. We went out. So like when we go to the schools, we go to the school.
Oh, so you've been to.
So like we interviewed Coach Watson and the team in Coalinga.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't. They played here
when we first.
So when the way it worked is that we just happened to get, because we were gonna get Coalinga the week before. And then the week before, my wife and my sister, they have a company. They were going to do an event back to, remember, my wife is my camera girl.
Right.
So I was like, oh, she's not going to be able to make it with me.
Right.
I was like, you know what? We'll just do a bye week. And then, so we did it the next week. And then that's when Coalinga was coming here. So I was like, cool. I didn't know it was Firebaugh's homecoming, though.
Right.
Me neither. I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. Well, and then it was already done. We already interviewed them. They were coming here. So then this week, because our plan was, now there are two teams really that are left for Mendota Firebaugh, right? And in between, like, we can kind of cover whoever else, but I kind of wanted to make it where we covered a team each week in the Westside League.
Right.
Next year will be a little different because we'll not only cover Westside schools, I want to make our way that way. So, like I was talking to you about the quarterback from Clovis.
Deacon Rose.
We've also been, there's kind of some stuff working out maybe down the road that when they do National Signing Day here in the Valley, we've been invited to go to that.
Okay.
So that's kind of something that we can, as we start implementing, this and this, as this is kind of working our way, we can make sure that, we involve ourselves.
Talk about next year too, and this is something that we were talking about before we got on, is next year. So I'll backtrack a little bit. So back in April, they're called managers, but I guess the league representatives for all the 53 leagues in the central section, believe it or not, there's that many leagues. They got together, or either leagues or schools, one of those two.
I think it has to be schools.
I think it's schools.
Because that's a lot of leagues.
Yeah. So the 53 member schools in the league, they got together and they voted on a new league formats, like as in new leagues that consist of already teams that are in an existing league and expanding them or maybe reshuffling them or what have you. And they voted on this back on April. And it's, when I found out about it, found out the date of that, I think it was either the date of the article or the date they had the meeting, April 1st. And what's April 1st? Exactly. So most people thought, it's an April Fool's joke. Haha, you got us. No, it was all 53 members unanimously voted to get these new leagues formed starting in 2026 and all the way till 2030.
You have it?
And I do. I have Well, I have the screenshot of because of the for in our area, but there's like more. Like Riverdale is going to be in an expanded league as well, but I can bring up the one that we're going to be in out here. So currently, right now, we're in the West Sierra League, and we have 6 teams. You have Avenal, Coalinga, Firebaugh, Mendota, Dos Palos, Tranquility. You have those 6. Starting next year on, it's going to expand to 12. And those other 6 are going to include Liberty Madera Ranchos. So again, Mike Nolte, who's the head coach for football, and he's the athletic director as well. Minarets, Sierra, Tranquility, Avenal as well in the league. But those are the 6. So scratch out Tranquility and Avenal. Madera Ranchos, Sierra, Minarets, Yosemite, Chowchilla, and Fresno Christian. So they're going to expand that now to 12 teams. And then, of course, within those 12, they're going to be a division with 6 and another division with 6. And from what I understand for football, at least, I figured as we get closer to next year, they're going to figure out the other ones for the other sports. But for football, on one side, on one division, you know, like back then how the like Mountain West had the Mountain and the West Division, the Pac-12, you had the Pac-12 North, Pac-12 South. So in this case, you're going to have 2 divisions. I can't remember the names of those divisions right now. But on one side, you're going to have Mendota, Firebaugh, Dos Palos, Coalinga, Chowchilla, Madera Ranchos. So you're like,
that's a tough division.
It's going to be a tough competitive division. And that's what the hope is. And that's the goal that they wanted to do with all the other ones, including this one, to make them more competitive. And then the other division, you're going to have, and again, you go back to the last one. What 2 schools did I leave out in that other one? Tranquility and Avenal. We're no longer, at least for football and possibly other sports, we're no longer playing Tranquility and Avenal. Which in a way makes sense because when Mendota, Firebaugh, anyone has them on their schedule, they're not really going to help us in terms of playoff seeding. Because when you play league games, you're already at the time where they're already talking about playoff spots, playoff seedings, and then you have your preseason games before that. And they're going to see your strength of schedule. And I'm not knocking on Tranquility and Avenal, don't get me wrong. Because again, Tranquility has Coach Mike, and I'm not knocking on him either. But they're not as competitive schools are not going to really help your team schedule out in terms of when the playoff committee looks, they're like, oh, you played this school and you beat this school. You played this school and you lost to this school. They're going to see their strength of schedule as well. So stuff like that. So that's the goal of it. And on top of that, it's also going to be a new league name. So this year is the last year of West Sierra League in all sports.
Wow.
Starting next year, it's going to be called the Northwest Athletic Conference.
Northwest
Athletic Conference.
Well, here you heard it first. So.
Yeah, and then it's like people are like, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna like? I'll cross that bridge when I get to it because it's WSL Athletics. But I'm like, well, what are you gonna call it now? You know, are you gonna, someone said, oh, you can call it the well, I came up with this name, but I don't know if I'm actually gonna use it. But someone said, oh, call it the NWAC or the NWEC. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. But like you're talking about you've been to Fowler, you've been to
No, not Fowler.
You haven't been to Fowler yet?
Not yet.
I thought you have been there.
We got asked just recently to go to Fowler.
Okay. So like you mentioned like Riverdale.
We've been to Riverdale.
We've been to Riverdale. Riverdale, I can tell you right now, their league, I think they're currently in the same league, but the schools that are in their league starting next year, and I'll read them off real quickly. Corcoran, Farmersville, Granite Hills, Lindsay, Orange Cove, Orosi, Parlier. You guys mentioned Parlier. Riverdale, Strathmore, Summit Charter, Wonderful College Prep Delano, and Woodlake. And Woodlake they're very good sports wise, and one of the sports that comes off the top of my head is softball. This past season, their softball team won state. And Mendota, we played them in the game over there, and I knew when I saw that game and I saw the team, I mean, Mendota did the best they could, but that Woodlake team, really, really good, so. And then, of course, you have the one I just mentioned. And then you talk about Coach Jenkins and Kerman. Their league also is getting expanded. It's also going to include now Carruthers, Dinuba, Exeter, Hanford West, Emmanuel Fowler, Kingsburg, Greeley, Selma, Sierra Pacific, and Washington Union. You notice I left
Dang.
out CVC. CVC is not going to be in that league
Okay.
next year. You know,
But
so,
Union Kingsburg, I mean, that's the two big schools right there.
yeah, CVC got shifted over, or will be shifting over, to what's going to be called the Central Yosemite Conference. So it's going to have CVC, El Diamante, Golden West, Hanford, Lemoore, Mission Oak, Menachie, Mount Whitney, Porterville, Redwood, Tulare Union, Tulare Western. But mind you, that's not the biggest league that's going to be happening next year. The biggest league, from when I looked at this list that CIF posted out, is what's called the North Yosemite Athletic Conference.
Okay.
So you're probably going to have to be like with your fingers how many teams they're in. So you have, starting out, Buchanan, Bullard, Central, Central East, Clovis, Clovis East, Clovis North, Clovis South, Clovis West, Edison, Fresno, Hoover, Justin Garza. You mentioned Garza earlier. Madera, Madera South, Matilda Torres, McLean, Roosevelt, San Joaquin Memorial, Sanger, Sanger West, and Sunnyside.
Dang, that's 22 teams.
That's what it's gonna look like next year. And I think the smallest one, there's two of them. I think there's two of them that are the smallest ones. I think out of this one.
What, Torres and South?
No. I mean the league with the smallest amount of schools.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's two of them. It's one that's the South Yosemite Mountain League and the South Yosemite Valley League. So the Mountain League has East, Foothill, Golden Valley, North, and South. And those are Bakersfield area.
Mm-hmm.
I know, actually, they're all Bakersfield area. I know because East Bakersfield, they were at Sullivan Arena last year for basketball, and they won their championship there. Golden Valley, we played them in Mendota played them in football last 2 years. We played them in football. Last year, Mendota traveled over there. This year, they came over here to us.
Mendota barely beat them this year?
Yes, it was a close game.
25-21 or something like that?
Yes, yeah. It was a close game. Mendota was up 19-7. Golden Valley caught up, but Mendota found a way to get the job done and get the win there. Foothill, we played them in playoffs before. Foothill out of Bakersfield, we played them in playoffs before. Then you have North Bakersfield and then South Bakersfield. And then the Valley League, so it's still South Yosemite, Bakersfield Christian, Highland, Independence, Ridgeview, and Tehachapi. So we've played Highland also in football for playoffs.
I still can't believe Torres is going to be in the same conference as Buchanan. That's crazy.
It's wild. And Torres sports has actually gotten better over the years since they opened their school. I think it was just a couple years ago they beat Dos Palos for the section championship. So
yeah,
it's going to be a whole new outlook starting next year on. And of course, out here in the Westside, you're going to include all those teams that I just mentioned. You're going to have the mountain schools, Yosemite, Minaret, Sierra. You have Madera Ranchos now in Chowchilla, so you have Madera County schools included into the mix. And of course, you have Fresno Christian, which, well, now the question is, because right now they're in 8-man football. So the question is, are they going to stay in 8-man? Are they going to transition to 11-man?
They should hopefully transition, but we'll see.
That's what Sierra has done too. I think Sierra has flip-flopped between 8-man and 11-man. So,
well, all good to know, man. Thank you for that was a lot.
Yeah.
So I will kind of wrap it up on the first part. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we head off?
I mean, first and foremost, I'm glad that I finally met you. But like I said, when I met you, I told you, oh, I've heard about you from Coach Beto Mejia. He's the one I mentioned. You gotta see if you can get on the podcast with Lou. And I'm like, I've heard about it, and I've seen, like I told him, I've seen this stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, and of course, like I said, I saw when you had Mike on here and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, the whole point of it too is like me being from Mendota. I mean, I would love to bring on as many Mendota people as I can. Yeah. Right?
I mean, you said you've talked to, you even talked to our mayor, Victor Martinez.
Victor, I went to school with him, we had him on,
and then you had Jesse Mendoza.
We had Mendoza came on with him.
Yeah.
Then we had the mayor here, Freddie on.
Freddie's a good people.
We're trying to work on. So my thing is, I like I said, I don't know how this is gonna go yet. I'm just kind of like flowing however the Lord's taking me. Mm-hmm. But we're gonna have more mayors on. We're gonna have more police chiefs, officers. We're gonna go with. Now we're getting into like the educators. So the admin part, we're having some superintendents come on. Mm-hmm. We're going to have principals, some VPs, some ADs are going to come on.
I was going to say,
coaches.
hopefully you can figure out a way to reach out to the now retired Chief Ragoza, who just retired from.
No, yeah,
the
that'll
chief here
be
in Firebaugh.
that'll be one of them. We're gonna have on a couple of school board members from here, from Firebaugh, and then we'll work our way down. And then just like I said, we're already in the fight game, so we're working with 559. We've worked with Big Dog Bare Knuckle. We worked with certain boxing organizations, so we're gonna continue it, man.
I can definitely. You mentioned school board members. I can definitely get you in touch with the ones in Mendota.
That'll be cool.
And then of course you're. It's funny you mentioned school boards because another thing that I didn't get to mention is that I since 2016 I've actually been running for office, and I've ran for school board, and I've been running for school board since then.
Okay.
And I plan on doing it again in 2026.
Nice.
This past one in 2024, I missed out on a seat by only 54 votes.
Oh wow.
So it's my goal. Like I said, my goal is to give back to my community, give back to my district, because I mean, I know we're gonna probably cut it off soon, but I just one little short story real quick. My senior year of high school, as you know, like I said, I mentioned earlier about my brother passing away. He did that. That happened beginning of my senior year. So it was my senior year didn't have the best start, and then throughout the year, I had people, my principal at the time, Carlos Arredondo.
Shout out to Mr. Arredondo.
Yeah, he was my principal, and
we're trying to get him on too.
Yeah, he's out there now at Clovis Unified.
Is he at Clovis Unified?
He's at Clovis Unified.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's at Clovis Unified. After he stayed for a few more years at Mendota, but then left, and then now Travis Kirby, the principal at the high school, which I got to give credit to him too.
Shout out to Mr. Kirby.
Mr. Kirby too. He's definitely been supportive of what I've been doing.
Awesome.
Him and the AD Luis Gutierrez. Shout out to him as well.
Shout out to Mr. Gutierrez.
Who was one of my former teachers as well when he started at Mendota. He taught history.
There you go.
So it happened that so my towards the end of my senior year, and you're talking about graduation and prom and stuff like that. I was having a little bit still of a difficult time getting through some of my classes, and I had meetings with the principal, special ed, since I was a special ed student from 4th grade till I graduated. I definitely got to give a shout out to all the special ed teachers.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to everyone out there.
Because because every special ed kid is different. Everyone is on the spectrum in one form or another. I'm on the spectrum, but I'm a high functioning spectrum person. On the ADD, ADHD, autism, all that. So, about a month or so before graduation, or actually about a few weeks before, and we were having one of our meetings with my principal, my mom, my special ed teacher, Mr. Nichols, who is now doing substitute teaching now, and my counselor, her name's Vanessa Covarrubias. She used to be Vanessa VR. She, the VRs in Kerman. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah, Mr. VR was my high school principal.
Victor VR.
And then I went to school with Joseph.
Joseph, yeah. Joseph, Alyssa, Vanessa. At the time she was VR, but now she's Covarrubias. She's married now. We were all meeting, and my grades were on. It seemed like I was on track, but and it's kind of trivial, was holding me back was about 2 years before I had misplaced a book from a class that was no longer even being taught there anymore. But I still, of course, had to pay off the fine for that, for losing the book. And we were gonna be short. And of course, one of the requirements is make sure you have your grades in check, but also that you don't owe any outstanding balance, or you can't walk. So, out of nowhere, unexpectedly, we were talking about that, and my special ed teacher, again, Mr. Nichols, out of nowhere, took out his wallet, asked Mr. Arredondo how much was left on my balance, and I think he said about $30, $40 left on my balance. He took out the $40, gave it to Mr. Arredondo, and said, I don't want anything holding him back from graduating. I want him to graduate. I want him to walk with his classmates. He's caught up with the work. he deserves it just like everyone else does. And my mom, no little to no English. She saw what was going on. She kind of got the idea of what was going on and tried to stop him, but he insisted he wanted to do it. And I was just sitting there. I was like stunned. Like I couldn't believe that. And even my principal was like, he was surprised, but he was like, also excited that was going on. So, seeing that, it really made me believe that, hey, teachers, admin, they look out for each other. Not just Mendota, but I figure in all small schools, they look out for their students. They look out for their staff.
Yeah.
And that's something, okay, that was in 2013. 3 years later, I'm like, I'm going to run for office. And again, since 2016 to the present, I've been running for school board. And I've gotten close. Like I said, 2024 election was my closest one ever. But over the years, my numbers have been getting better. My base has been growing. And, people are like, there's some few people that'll be like, well, if you haven't gotten on, why do you keep doing this to yourself? Well, you keep losing. And you're just wasting time. You're wasting energy. You're wasting effort. You're wasting, I don't see it as a waste. I'm reaching out to more people. And, like you said, it comes back to timing. Maybe the Lord didn't want me on back then. He said, you know what? The Lord probably said, you know what, Kevin, you're not ready in 2018. You're not ready in 2020. You're not ready in 2022. 2024, he's like, you're almost ready. So maybe 2026 or in 2028, he'll be like, you're ready. And, if I'm lucky to get on, I'll be on. And I will be
not
ready.
Luck, bro. Blessed. Remember, there's no luck.
Right.
It's all about being blessed. Your timing. You're right. There.
I'll rephrase that then. If I'm blessed to get on the board, whether it's for one term or for however long they keep voting me in for, my goal is to see what we can do to give back to the students, to give back to staff, to give back to admin. Because my main message has always been this. I believe that everybody that works at the school district, whether you're a bus driver, groundskeeper, janitor, cafeteria worker, whatever your position is, they all have a common goal, and that's to be there for the students as they walk in on their first day of kindergarten till they're walking out on graduation night as their seniors. And that's how I look at it, and that's how I see it, and that's what I'm ready to do. And, I already have people that said, you know what, when you get on the board, we'll help you settle in. You're not going to just be left alone. Some of the school board members that are on there now have said they're ready to help me out. And even Superintendent Dr. Paul Lopez, he said, I'll be there ready to help you out. So, let's see what happens.
There you go. Well, that was a great pitch, man. So now down the road, everyone could see and they'll know that you made your pitch, and we'll go from there. Hopefully, if you get it when the time is right.
Right. When the time
you can come back on and talk about it.
Of course, be more than happy to, and of course, be more than happy to come out here and keep talking Westside football for as long as we're both able to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I have no idea where this is gonna head, but I'm very excited for the future and what the Lord has for us, and being people like yourself and just hearing your stories. Right. Next time, I'll make sure that we kind of structure it a little bit different. And this one, I wanted just to let you talk and let you kind of come on and have it with your podcast.
And I appreciate it very much.
No, for sure.
It's and it kind of got me a little bit happy to hear that you've seen the stuff that I've done, and you've seen the stuff that Brian Welch has done, and that's driving you to be like, you know what, I want to do it like those guys are doing it. So
you guys maybe want to prepare
how to do it.
I'm tell you right now, if I walk in a room and if I'm doing something and I'm doing something similar to the next, I'm not saying I want to be better than you. I just want to be as prepared as you.
Right.
Because if you're going to sit here and start naming these players on teams, I'm like, it just makes me look like I'm not prepared.
Right.
Like right now I had a drop. I said the Clovis quarterback's name, and you dropped it right away, and it's like, I say that because he just decommitted. And now he's going to go to Fresno State. So I feel like that's a Valley talent. Even if he went to Oregon State, it would still have been Valley talent. We still would love to have him on the podcast to just
there's a lot of
his journey.
There's a lot of Valley talent that's playing at top schools. Landon Wright is at Washington State. He played at Clovis West. You have Torrey Horton, who played at Colorado State, but he's a Washington Union product, and he's now in the NFL. He's in Seattle.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So
no, I want to thank you once again for coming on for this part 1, and then maybe we can kind of continue it. And the goal maybe would be get you and Brian on.
Yeah,
we
that would be
can
great.
all talk some Westside,
Yeah, every time I see Brian and before we always leave, he's like, "You stay out of trouble." I'm like, "Me stay out of trouble? You should be staying out of trouble too, young man, because that guy, he's everywhere, man." Aside from doing Coalinga, he's also done West Coast College, and
he does Fresno State.
He hasn't really done it anymore that much because he's now graduated from there.
No, he's just doing it. He does their polo. He does soccer.
Well, he does that, but he also was involved with football.
Yeah. But he's everywhere, like you said. That guy is everywhere, and he knows everyone.
He just did baseball up in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
he was doing Portland.
That's awesome. So, no, thank you, man. Like we start every podcast with a Bible verse, and we end with the same Bible verses. So today's Bible verses were 1 Corinthians 13:4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud. 1 Corinthians 13:4. And then we had yours, the Philippians 4:13. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Philippians 4:13. Right. And with that being said, I want to thank you once again for stopping by, Kevin. And hopefully it's one of many.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to coming here often and continue to tell these stories like I've been doing for the last 13 years, to tell these stories of these kids in the West Side. And, even touch up on also Carruthers. You mentioned Coach Ward. I've done stuff for football, but I've also really dived into girls basketball and what they've done over the last several years.
And then as we continue to go into the next step after football, we're going to do basketball and specifically wrestling. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be boys and girls. So maybe we'll have you do your connections. You can probably get us with Carruthers, and we can speak to the coach out there because they are building a dynasty and powerhouse out there.
Oh, so. Definitely. Yeah. They're doing great things out there. Last year, they won state, but they won it as they were going through tragedy themselves. They lost one of their longtime assistant coaches, Larry Triguero. His daughter was on the team, Morgan Triguero. She plays at COS right now. And it was actually after one of their playoff games. So they lost. They played Clovis in the section playoffs in their division. And I think it happened either after that game or several hours after that game. Unfortunately, he ended up passing away, I believe, from a heart attack.
Wow.
And yeah. So I covered Carruthers for a good while too. Coach Ward and the coach for Carruthers girls basketball, Coach Almeida.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll eventually will get there.
I'll help you, man. We're here. We're helping each other out. We're looking out for each other in the reporting and now podcasting group.
For sure.
Just like how players are they're not just teammates, but they build a bond, like a brotherly bond. Well, I feel like now you and I, we've built a bond, and we're here to, like you said, you're trying to learn more about how to be more informed and get ready and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And hopefully me and Brian, we can continue to help, learn all there is to know about sports in general.
For sure. Well, thank you, man, for part 1, and we'll head off, and we'll definitely look forward to part 2 with you. Okay.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Alrighty.